rubber band that is keeping all of our technology together, and we're doing great.
It's working. It's working. Look, there I am too.
Yes. Wonderful. Good. And thank you. I see everyone's tuning in. I'm just squinting so I can see. Hello, welcome. It's good to see everyone. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
All right.
Good. You need to scooch?
Scoot just a bit so my face is not chopped.
Good.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. We're gonna wait just a bit till some people come in on mine.
Wonderful. Hi, Eric. Good to see you, man.
See if the gremlins will try to.
No, the techno gremlins will not give us any problems today. I'm squinting and reading closer so I can see. Hi.
Infinity symbol.
Yes, yes. So you know something? It's good to see you and thank you. I think that these symbols that I paint, like I see them internally, and I think that there's something that exists at large. I don't think that it's something that is only my own private world to view and to paint. So I'm seeing something that is in existence that other people can see and experience too. So you'll see some of these repeating patterns in ancient artwork and even in some scientific diagrams. I think that it's not surprising to me to find it in all these different places. And we're just waiting for the YouTube stream to get going strong and make sure that we've got people tuning in on that before we really get going.
Topics. What are the possible topics?
Like we went for a long hike today, and we had some really interesting conversations about the nature of reality when we were walking around up in the beautiful mountain area up there.
Like always.
Yes. And I don't know, is there a visible chat on the YouTube one that we're on?
Yeah, it should appear right here.
Cool. Let's see.
All messages are visible. Okay, we got one more person, so
Cool.
we should get a few comments.
We have
soon.
one measly YouTube viewer, but they're coming. But I don't think they actually have measles. I think that's just an expression. Suraj, how to raise a human vibration? How to raise a human vibration? There are many. Hello, we have someone logged in on YouTube. Right. Thank you. So, I mean, to answer the question, you have to first define what does it mean to raise vibration, and then go into the different ways of doing it. So I would say it is like gaining energetic metabolism, if that's what we're talking about. If we say raise vibration, the idea of internally moving at a faster rate, meaning that you process information faster, process emotional experience faster, and are able to tap into creativity and generate more things faster. So I think that there's a variety of different ways to do that. One of the big ones is I think we have a hacked human operating system, and that whenever we hear verbalized thoughts in our mind, it's like the evidence of friction that is slowing us down. So if there's a way to still the constant chatter inside of one's mind, I think that is a pretty essential tool to being able to, quote, raise your vibration, increase your energetic metabolism. And the food that we eat is also a big part of that. Gary and I were talking about this. In this time and place, we live in a world that is very corrupt or polluted or like literally satanic. And when I say satanic, I'm not necessarily referring to something from the Bible. I'm talking about a space race that uses technology and it subverts the natural order of things. And that, we participate in a lot of things that are satanic that are just part of the systems that are here. So, eating genetically modified food or using dollar bills that have occult symbols on them. I think all of those things are also things that they slow us down and reduce our energetic metabolism. So in whatever way possible, not participating on those levels, I think helps us to not be slowed down in that way.
Hello, My Skies 5D. Welcome, Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. And My Skies 5D, I think they often do things about chemtrails. I don't know their channel that much, but I'm trying to think about what videos I might have seen from them.
I'm not familiar with
Okay.
We did have chemtrails here when we came, and I saw.
Yes. So I live in Southern California, and in my area, we do get chemtrails pretty hard, but luckily it's not usually enough to do a complete whiteout. Long reaction says, oh, Montana. Good to see you in Montana. Happy to hear there's no chemtrails up there. And yeah, we get a lot of weather manipulation over here, and it was a manufactured drought for a very long time, but now it is, much clearer. Microchips is what one person is saying. So we were talking about this too. I don't think that right now, when there is technology that is affecting human neurology, but I don't think that it's as crude as having to actually cut open your head and install a microchip. But I think that there are members of our society right now that are having what you would call like a neural lace, where maybe they inject something into your blood or you breathe something up your nose, and it's self-assembling nano that is intentional, that people are using in order to augment their natural thought processes and their natural telepathy. So I don't think you got, nanotech, exactly. I don't think you got to get microchips implanted. I think that there are other ways. 5G. Yeah, bubble of bliss. I like to hear that. Good. I'm making faces so I can read all these different things that are being said over here. Hey, Derek, good to see you, man. Susan, you're having trouble hearing us? I got it. Well, sound check. It seems like so other people can hear us. So there's got to be a way for Susan to turn up her elementals of the sky and energetics of the sky and sylph clouds. Very nice. So tonight I did this ceremony that is called Agnihotra, that comes from the Hindu tradition, but you don't have to be a Hindu to do it. And it is all about basically purification. It's a way of building a little sacred fire, and then you burn grains of rice in there while you say a particular phrase in Sanskrit. And I feel like this is one way that we can begin to purify our sky. Reading what you're saying down here. Oh, thanks. Good to see you, Seeker. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Like, if we only approach this in the objective materialist approach, I think it would be very daunting. Like, how are we going to get all of these nanoparticles? How are we going to clean it all out from the soil and the sky and every place that it's possibly gone to?
The objective materialist approach is the impossible approach.
Yes. And so we have to reach into a higher dimensional perspective in order to say...
The rice is full of mana.
Well, you know something? Then perhaps the sun, it's the idea of making an offering to the sun. And because we receive all of our light and energy and consciousness and awareness from there. So perhaps if there is nano in the rice that is burned, the sun is getting the message like, wait, there's something going on that planet. We better look into this.
There's some interference happening. I don't know exactly what it is.
Exactly. Do cats, so this is a good question from Suraj. Do cats purr to raise the vibration? How humans can achieve it? I think that cats purr as like a way of emanating what their vibration is. I think they are naturally what we would say high vibration. I think that cats are naturally, let's call it instead of high vibration, in a mind state that is very tuned into the divine. And I think that that's why they're like, oh, I don't work. Like, cats are like, I sleep and I eat and I do what the heck I want to do, but I ain't gonna be like trained or anything like that. And that they're free.
I think they hold space pretty well too, like energetic. They hold if somebody is having some meltdown or or else some nefarious energy is flowing through your space, then your calm cat in the corner is gonna help offset that.
Definitely. I think their work is being an energetic guardian. So they're like, oh, I don't fetch a ball, but I work, I do my energetic guardian thing. But yeah, in terms of behavioral control, that they don't submit to that in the way that other domesticated animals have. Eli says, your cat has no ears. Aw, that is very sad. I hope that it is okay, that it was not an accident that took away its ears or something like that. But yes, I think that cats maintain that sense of being, like when I say free, and even though cats might be domesticated in the sense that they partner with humans, their behavior is unencumbered. That means they're allowed to do what they want to do. Different than a draft horse where you say, you get up now and I put on your saddle now and you work for me and then you get your food. Or, a dog or something like that. And I have my dog sitting on my lap. I absolutely love her. But, she has like a regimented life where I tell her what to do. And then during certain times of the day, she's free to run around in the backyard and hunt gophers and do what she wants to do. But other times, she works. And she works and she gets paid in TREATS. We got to spell it out because she's going to know what I'm talking about. So this is very similar to humans. Like, we right now auction our time to the highest bidder. Where we say, I would like to just sit in bed under the puffy covers, but I gotta go earn some money so I can make electrons flow in a wire and set up my studio here. So I gotta do something to do that. And I think that that compromise is what lowers our vibration or reduces our energetic metabolism. It makes it harder to move through time. We like face more resistance. Like imagine you're like got turbulence in the water. You can't just flow smoothly. You have to do all these things where you're auctioning your energy and your consciousness and your efforts in order to get Monet to work for the man and pay your bills. And I think that is the thing that reduces our energy and divinity and connection to divine consciousness the most.
It just takes you out of present as well. I think that's one of the main problems with the society situation is it has you out of your present moment all the time.
Yes.
And you lose energy that way.
Definitely. Being like dispersed, where your attention is either focused on the past or constantly anticipating the future. Mm-hmm. And then you're never able to really focus on the sensations and what you're feeling of the moment right now. And sometimes people, I think, like to fuzz out the moment right now a little bit because it can be super intense. Like if you're sitting in an airport and you're in the waiting room and they're like, there's all these people and everything. Like you can really open up and feel everybody's emotions and everybody's turmoil and everybody's kidney disease.
And your own emotions
exactly.
as well.
It's a lot. Like I can understand why people don't want to necessarily feel everything that is happening at every level. Interesting comment, Eric, saying controlling time is godlike. I agree, and I think that is a godlike power that we all are supposed to have available to us. I don't think that we are... Hi! I don't think that we are supposed to simply like go through time like bumbling along like idiots and kind of like stumbling from moment to moment. I think that we're supposed to be like virtuosos, where, like Doctor Who. Imagine what life would be like if you were Doctor Who, where you could be like, oh, now I want to fly to, ancient France. Now I want to fly forward to the far distant future. Now I want to go have lunch in Great Britain. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. And I think that we're supposed to do that, but maybe not in a literal physical sense, but with our consciousness, to be able to experience time in a nonlinear fashion and go the places that we want to go and speak with the people we want to speak with and have like an expanded experience of life. And, we've had genetic squashing that has made it much more difficult for us to be able to experience that level of freedom in experiencing time. Yeah, Georgia is saying that these animals teach us unconditional love. Completely agree. My animals have been what I call my creature teachers. Like they took me a lot out of my head and helped me to get into my heart. Because, I do these paintings and they're very intellectual and I'm very focused on it. Oh, I didn't read that. What did he say?
He said if I was Doctor Who, everybody's life would be better.
Ah! So, yeah, I'll vote for you to be Doctor Who. Get your TARDIS. Get going. Yes. Yeah, so Cheeky will come along sometimes and be like, hey, like, you need to play. You need to, like, stop being so serious and intellectual. You need to go outside and run around and play.
They help remind you that you're alive, right?
Yeah, totally.
You forget you're alive if you're in the system for too long. You're like typing out random messages and shuffling numbers all day. It's like you forget,
Yeah, maybe people aren't. The definition of being alive is more like mediocre zombiehood as opposed to really vibrant being alive and being tuned in. And yeah, I think if you're really vibrant and alive and tuned in, and you're in some of these cubicle situations, to work and earn Monet, that like something's going to break. Because either you're going to have to shift around your situation, like to be more comfortable at work, or you're not going to be able to continue to stay there. Like most workplaces cannot accommodate a person who's super tuned in and super awakened and wants to, restructure things in a different and better way. Oh, we want to talk about Mandela effect. Someone's mentioning that up there. Dynamic Jack is mentioning Mandela effect.
We can talk about Mandela effect.
I haven't done a lot of videos about it, even though it was definitely the cool thing to do for a while on YouTube.
Back in the day, it was.
Definitely. And I kind of
like back with Flat Earth.
Yes, I think it might have been before Flat Earth. So, I first of all, I will tell everyone, it's Bernstein, not Berenstein, and not Berenstein. Okay, it's Bernstein. I remember this very, very clearly.
Bernstein.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
The Bernstein Bears.
Beren. It was like Beren.
Are you from a different timeline than me? Oh my God. I clearly remember it Bern, not Baron, because I had an old friend who was like, in college, and everyone made fun of her because her name was Bernstein. The Bernstein Bears. So I'm sure that we could contact her and she would be like, yes, I affirm your reality. So this is big about the fluidity of reality. Because when we make a change with our minds in the present, the changes actually do ripple backwards and also forwards. They ripple all around us. So if we make a change in what we think or what we believe right now, it actually does go retroactively into the past. And here's my problem, though, with the idea of researching the Mandela effect. Most people are doing this research digitally, and it's so easy to change or manipulate a digital file. Very different than going to a library and actually looking in a library book. So also, anything that's on YouTube, you must presume that it can be changed or digitally altered. So if you say, I remember this from this movie, but I see this clip on YouTube and it actually shows me this, like, you have to be skeptical of your evidence from YouTube because someone could have uploaded a slightly changed or different version. So one of the things is, the queen in Snow White, did she say, what did the queen say to the magic mirror? I remember, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And in the one that is more recent that you can check out on YouTube, there's a version where she says, slave mirror, tell me who's the fairest of them all. Seriously.
Slave mirror?
Seriously. She uses the word slave in addressing her mirror. And not only did I not remember that, but I think, like, okay, like, that's something that could be easily altered just through
We're living in the upside down.
Yeah, that's right. The upside down world, the inverted world. And those shows like Stranger Things are good because they give us a shorthand to be able to talk about, you know, what is happening here.
Yeah, without it having to be so fringe, so like out there as per the normal populace.
I didn't think that was fringe.
There has to be. I know it's not.
I think that, you know something, I want to affirm everybody's reality too. I don't think that the topics that we're talking about or our viewpoint right here is fringe at all. I think that it's actually the majority. I think that the majority of people know what the heck is going on, know about the levels of consciousness manipulation and corruption, and are not fooled. I definitely think that the zombies, the shambling zombies, the lumpen people are not the most populous. But so in terms of like just numbers, I think that we outnumber them. However, the norms, the normies or whatever, they might be more represented in media and they might be portrayed as...
See you, Aphrodite. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Water.
Yeah, absolutely. They might be portrayed as more in the population, but they're not. So I've definitely experienced this, the idea of saying, like, you know, a person is an outsider or a weird fringe dweller, and that the people that do something like have a bridal shower. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a bridal shower, but they do these bizarre things where, like, you have to take the bows off of the gifts and turn it into a hat for the woman who's pregnant. Like, it was like being a cultural anthropologist on Mars. These are like very strange customs that are, where do they come from? Why are they being performed? And it was presented to me as like, oh, this is the most normal thing in the world. This is what all women do at a baby shower, is the normal thing. And I'm thinking, like, no, I don't think it's the normal thing at all. I think, yeah, hen party is what you're saying. I think it is the fringe, but it is presented as conventional. So, like, if you watch a TV show that is about a conventional family, their ways of doing things and everything, that is considered to be the majority, I don't think that the majority is conventional. I don't think that the majority of people have those types of baby showers or follow the types of predictable, socially acceptable patterns of behavior that it is portrayed as. And I don't think that's just me, because I'm a friend and most of my friends are artists and weirdos, like, you know, like doing things in an untraditional way. I think that like the idea of the nuclear family is not, those are not the mommy, daddy, and babies living all together with no divorces in one house. I think that is not the majority, even though that is presented as normative. I don't think that that's how most people actually live. So we have to question, where did these ideas of what is normative and what is majority come from, and then maybe change and refine, redefine, make a much more expansive definition of what reality is. Georgia's saying it all seems foreign to you now. You know something? That is like my experience of being here as a stranger in a strange land. All of these customs seem very foreign to me, and some of them seem like quite unhealthy. Like the custom of going out on Friday night and drinking yourself into oblivion, and then, you know, finding inappropriate people to go home with. Like that's not.
Find something to do that you'll regret tomorrow morning.
Exactly. And these are, of course, portrayed in media as the normal thing to do, but I don't necessarily think that that is what the majority, or that is what is normal, or that is what is healthy. Interesting.
You know what? I don't think a lot of people take the time to actually talk with someone they're sitting next to and say, like, hey, even something simple like your own room, just to see like, are we seeing the same room? Even like, what color is that thing over there? Like, how does the window look to you, etc.
Yes.
You can see the same room differently, and then if you extrapolate out from there to the mental plane, right, which is where our world is contained.
Yes.
Right. If you're not verifying, then you have no clue if you're even living in a related reality as the person standing next to you.
I think we are living in totally separate realities, and that we are having totally unique individual, interpretations of the abstraction around us in terms of our senses, and that there's a very, very minimal, like in Venn diagram, a very minimal overlap of like the areas that we can both agree to. Like, yeah, water is wet, and we are both experiencing that. But other than that, making a good point, I think it was Adriana, that because of technology, people are less social. Oh, they're good, but it's going by very fast, and that's making life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely this sense of not connecting
Hey,
with
Lauren.
people.
Lauren's 88, timekeeper, I think. Oh.
And I think people use technology to fuzz out so as not to have to connect. Like, I'm not actually going to talk with the person at the dinner table. I'm just going to look at my phone and kind of not have to talk with anyone and feel any of their stuff. And the phone.
Kevin, what's up?
Hey, who's that?
Wait, Kevin, are you in San Francisco? We might have one of my passengers.
Oh, I hope your knee gets better.
I've told about the channel to a few passengers, but for the most part, I think they go and look at it and they're like, "What is he talking about?"
My crazy driver wanted me to look at his YouTube channel today. I hope you don't think that I'm presuming what they would think, because like, I just want to get to my destination. I don't know if I want to get my mind blown by alternative interpretations
they'll ask
of reality.
About it sometime.
Really?
Because like all that crap on my dash is from like half of it's from subs.
Oh, got it.
So if I'm not gonna lie about it and have to be like, yeah, I came from subscribers. Oh, you have a channel?
I'm happy that you do that. So I rode in Gary's car today, and he's got like beautiful little objects, significant objects on his dashboard. It's like a lovely little.
A shrine.
Yeah.
It's like a shrine.
Yeah.
There's crystals. There's a singing bowl. A paper mache dollar snail that someone made.
Oh, I didn't see that. I have to look again.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
There's a whole bunch of stuff.
It's a sacred space. We should all make our cars into a sacred space. I
wand.
saw the wand. That is beautiful. Very nice. And that's good, because you've also got like some good protection for you while you're on the road all of those many hours. But I also like the idea that you might be doing your own version of lasagnifying or expanding people's reality, even in a relatively mundane thing, like giving someone a ride to get somewhere.
Wait, let me see. Kevin, I'm trying to remember who Kevin was. Where'd he go?
Harley, I'm agreeing with you up there. Oh, I don't mean to beat it.
No, it's fine.
We've got two different chats going, because I've got my thing up here and he's got his thing down here.
Yeah, we have my YouTube and her Facebook, so there's like a ton of questions on both.
Yes, and I wish that you guys could actually see. We've got a little stand with this all set up here, and my phone is a rubber band, and sock is holding it to the stand. So we have super high technology, but then a sock.
We MacGyvered it. Whatever works, right?
Do people know MacGyver anymore?
I was hoping later you guys could take a look through some of my videos and leave some feedback. My skies are ultra unique, lots of rainbow, fire, and light.
Yes.
Being Entity Cloud Collective. You know that channel?
I do. I'm subscribed to that channel. That was how I knew it.
Okay.
Yes. I'm happy to check it out. And I do think that there are a lot of interesting, positive, natural anomalies that are going on in the sky, and then a lot of sky fuckery. And we were talking about the holographic planes that are going on up there too.
You can contact me when you're in the Bay Area. I'll meet up with people so long as you're decent humans.
Good. Yes.
No
insane pathogens. No gunmen.
Right. No pretending you're one thing and then you're someone else.
Definitely no imposters. No, what's it called? Catfish. No catfish.
Interview people you gave ride. I did that with a couple people. I had this one woman that hopped in the back with her guitar.
Oh, nice.
And she hopped in and started playing.
I love it.
And that video is actually up. I forgot how to find it. But
fantastic. I didn't see that one.
I have done a few. I interviewed a homeless guy in San Francisco. Bought him some Taco Bell and then sat there and I was trying to see like the homeless thing. Is it is there something special going on? And it was just like, no, he's not completely there, and it's people fall in there. But the system itself does not make it easy if your mental's not working correctly, if your connections are bad, like if you burn bridges or whatever, it doesn't make it easy to survive.
Exactly, it can be hard to reintegrate. I mean, I definitely have met some homeless people that were simply, very, drug addicted, shambling zombies, and some people that I met I actually felt were targeted individuals, or who really had something going on and were not merely paranoid schizophrenics, making something up. Elfian, good to see you. What connections I felt in intimate partners felt so intense in certain frameworks starting. There you go, see more. The deep gazing into each other's eyes. I know what you're talking about. And then abstractions proliferate outside of those moments. I understand. So Elfian is describing like the connection that people make when they have, an intimate partner and they're able to actually make like a real bond. That is so absent right now in most of our social connections. That mostly it is a very tangential thing. Sometimes people don't even look people in the eye. I really noticed that. I spent only a very brief amount of time living in Los Angeles, and before I made it up here to Ojai. And like no one looked me in the eye. I'm like smiling at everyone and trying to talk to them about lasagna, and everyone was just very super on an agenda, like not able to really connect. And yes, it was. There's that whatever philosophical saying, hell is isolation. Like I think that is very truthful. I saw all of these people in their own private bubbles, not able to effectively talk with or connect with other people, and it seems very hellish.
I had this. I was trying to describe it to somebody, like what it's like that people do when they're trying to talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, the straw man is talking to the straw man for the most part. It's like, remember back to things I've done in my life. I did this. Oh, you did? I did that. Oh, you did that? I did that before that. And then just go and give your whole chronological timeline of all the things you've ever done. And that's the entire, or else like the whatever.
Right. It's not really connecting on an interpersonal level. It's like giving a resume of experience.
You're just like putting pictures up. You're like, this thing over here, that over there.
And that's the question is now, what do people identify with as self? Are you, as a definition of self, are you all the places that you visited, or all the meals that you've eaten, or all the anecdotes that you can tell people, or are you something more? And I would say, of course, you're something more. You're more than just a collection of data. You are, innovative. Like, if you're a musician, you're not just the music that you've all learned. You're the capacity to innovate. Let's read what's going on up here. Mark Anthony, he does tons of videoing of the sky and has been looking at the astronomical anomalies, let's call them, to couch our language, for quite a long time. Do you want to talk Nibiru?
I don't know much about Nibiru.
Okay. So
but you can.
Well, I mean, again, I followed this a long time. So I think that there are a lot of astronomical anomalies that are going on, and I think that some of the YouTube channels that are about going over it, like I will call them out. One of them was called WSO, and one of them was, now it's escaping me. But I think that they knew that they were mostly showing lens flares, and they showed them anyway, saying, but I do think that there's something going on in terms of extrasolar bodies, and that comes from my personal experience. I think that there's something that is emitting infrared, like heat energy that we can't necessarily see with our physical eyes, because last year, here where I live in Southern California, we had what was called a heat wave, but it was not just like a regular heat wave. And yes, during the day we had temperatures that were over 120 degrees, but then it still stayed like 90 degrees or maybe even 100 degrees at night. And I went out at night in order to water my garden so that it wouldn't completely die. And even though it was dark and the sun was not visible, on my skin, on my arm, it felt like there was some source of radiant heat. Radiant heat is when like you're standing next to a fire and your skin feels warm, or there's those little, space heaters or something like that. So it wasn't just like the wind was blowing and it was hot out or hot and humid. Not like that. I felt radiant heat on my actual skin, and I like taken a shower. My hair dried like instantaneously. There was like no moisture in the atmosphere. Hair dried instantaneously, and I felt like a blast furnace.
What was this? What were we doing again?
This was when I went outside here to water my garden at night when we had what was called a heat wave over the summertime. And it is normal to have heat waves here, and it's normal to have temperatures like 100 or 120 when the sun is out. But then usually the sun goes down, and then
120 is not normal. That's like Death Valley.
Let's say that it has happened, that is something that is not so unusual. But then usually the sun goes down and the temperatures go down. And it was very unusual to have the sun go down and have the temperatures still stay high for that period of time. And that told me, because I'm all about like, what can I experience directly with my senses, as opposed to seeing a picture on a screen and or having someone tell me, like from an observatory, that something's going on. So yeah, I do think that there is some extrasolar body that is going through our solar system right now that is not visible to the unaided eye, but that is emitting radiation or whatever you would call it, emissions.
Well, we had the Schumann thing is dropping, right?
Not dropping,
Not
it's
dropping.
been
It's
increasing.
spiking?
It's been increasing. There have been moments where it's so dense that it's like a total whiteout. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you look at the graph, like you'll see this thing come flying through, right?
The KP index has been dropping. So the KP index has to do with the strength of Earth's magnetic shields, and Earth's magnetic field is supposed to like help to keep out excessive radiation from our sun and other places. So when it's weak, it means that more of that energy is reaching us. But I think that energy coming from our sun is a good thing, that we're being exposed to consciousness cultivating energies, that it shouldn't be blocked out, that it's something where it's like, yeah, like I want that to come into me. I don't want that to be blocked out. Dynamo Jack is talking about this, the artificial qualities of our moon, and I'm agreeing with you that our moon is not naturally occurring here, and that it is like a created piece of artifice or a tool that's
Do you think it
used.
actually affects tides and humans' emotions, or is that you think it does not?
Yeah, I think that it does do the objective
Yeah.
materialist stuff of affecting tides, affecting human fertility, and affecting human emotions. But I do think that the moon is where, 5G moon, that's a good. So, first I will say, what we are seeing with our unaided eye in the sky, I think there's like projection over the actual moon, that we're not seeing the actual surface of the moon, even if you have a super excellent camera that's pointed up there. And I think that the moon is a way station for some of these malevolent technologies that are used to manipulate consciousness and manipulate time, what we were just saying before, that there are these users, we could call it dark magic, users of dark magic. That's how I define satanic technology, that any sophisticated technology that we don't know how it works, we call it magic. So this is the magic of like, how do you zap someone out of their body? How do you zap someone into a body? How do you zap a soul signature out of existence? And when I say that, like, I don't want to say these things casually and have people fly off the handle, but yes, there is a technology that's been used around here for a long time that's like, if you die and you have like if your body dies, but your song, like the melody of you is supposed to be able to continue, but they have like a way of stopping that song. And that's like really dead. You're not like just mostly dead.
Soul erasure.
Good word. Soul erasure. Yes,
wow.
They erase your soul.
That doesn't sound nice.
No, it's not nice at all. And it's totally against cosmic law, and that's why I'm here as Flying Rainbow Lasagna.
Moon transmits frequency, and that we need to tune into nature station rather than the artificially created one.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you on that. I think all of this, the situation that we are in right now as individuals and a collective, is all about learning to tune into the natural aspects of self. Like we have a natural telepathy, we have a natural way of talking to one another with our minds on a bridge of love, and not being waylaid or confused by the static on the line or the beings that are using artificial, what do I call it, synthetic telepathy. That there's ways of, like I'll inject some nano into your bloodstream. It will go to your brain and it will augment your capacity to broadcast your mind. And then it's like plugging in, you get amplified. But your music is still crappy. Even if you're playing it up to volume 11, we don't want to hear your crappy music. We don't want to hear your crappy thoughts. So the idea is it subverts the system, because it's supposed to be like, as you get better and cultivate yourself more internally, that your song grows, and the louder people are supposed to be the people that are more loving and more tuned into the divine, and like you want to hear that music. They should be the loudest voices that are singing, but instead we have some very, very crappy singers that are just using a microphone and that's like intelligence agencies and secret societies and other malevolent users of technology that are trying to do this. Yes, good one. Cosmic Gypsy says, artificial telepathy does not see what organic can. Exactly. That if you run OS love, operating system love, then you are able to connect to other minds and perceive all of the colors, all of the subtleties that are there. And if you're using this synthetic telepathy, one is not able to effectively feel everything that's there and perceive everything that's there. Like you might imagine if you could see like two people, having sex, and you can certainly see the physical biomechanics of what is happening, but you can't see the feelings and the intangible connections that are just as much a part of that experience as the physical mechanical stuff that is going on.
It's the same thing as you guys watching us on this, right? Like you're getting the reproduction of it,
right?
but you're not getting any of our internal feeling. Like if you were in here in the room with us, then you would feel the feeling flow, right? Like,
exactly.
but you guys get the secondhand version, which is the copycat version.
Exactly. Like, what I'm not down on technology because it's allowing us to have this conversation right now. But technically, what we should be able to do is have this conversation without the use of technology as an intermediary. We should be able to have these wonderful telepathic connections where you don't need a stinking phone and a sock and a tripod to be able to.
What's up, Dre? That's one of my buddies from work way back.
Nice, cool, good to meet you, man.
Yep, welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to be able to have this conversation. Like, that's what the Cosmic Dance Party is, where you don't actually have to keep your, whatever, your $45 a month phone subscription to be able to talk to everyone. You should be able to do it with your mind. Way back when I lived in Woodstock on the East Coast, kind of like 2003, 2004, they did not have a cell phone tower there. And I found that it was very natural to just tune into my friends telepathically and be like, oh, I wonder where my friend is. I wonder if they're hanging out in the park. I wonder if they're down there by the, riverside. And, we would look for each other, kind of using that sense to kind of sense, like, where is my friend? And as soon as they put up the cell phone tower, kind of around 2005, that went away. And it wasn't just the convenience that we could now call each other on the phone and say, hey, meet me at the park. It was the sense that got blocked out by the now...
By the 5G tower?
Not a 5G tower, because this was in 2005. It was just a regular cell phone tower. Yeah, it was funny. The residents fought against it.
That's really funny, though, because, like, it's like they're saying, okay, fuck your natural way. Like, this is how you must use this box and communicate.
That is exactly right. And you have to pay a subscription in order to have that access to technology.
Right.
So it's very different than saying, like, well, in order to connect with everyone telepathically on a bridge of love, you're going to have to meditate for 45 minutes a day. That's different. And I think a lot of people would be willing to do that in order to, have these, it's not magical superpowers. It's actually our real birthright powers as a human being. That's what we're supposed to be able to do to communicate. We're not supposed to be so encapsulated and cut off from one another.
We got shrunk down into like a barely able to perceive anything, this little dot, right?
Yes.
We're supposed to be much larger.
Much more expansive. I like this idea of saying we're shrunk down. We were talking about on our walk the time when the Earth's oxygen was different. We had different atmospheric concentrations of oxygen, and everything was bigger. Like the insects were bigger, the mushrooms were bigger, everything was bigger. So there weren't humans at that time, but if we lived at that time, we would be like, honey, I shrunk the humans. We were like tiny compared to how expansive we would have been up there. Yes, and I very much feel that in my present form, I'm like a concentrated, shrunk down version of who and what I am. But I think it's hugely important to remind everyone of their expansive true nature. Like, we're really supposed to be magical, divine, like Olympic athletes, geniuses. We're not supposed to be like little stupid humans drinking the coffee and using the toilet paper and just kind of stumbling through our lives.
That's why when I when people talk about the straw man phenomenon,
right? Tell me what it is.
It's
or
like
just
it's like your social security number.
Yes.
It's your paper identity, right?
Yeah.
But the weird thing about it, and I've heard, I've listened to lots of people talk about what this is and how it's affecting people, but it literally has you, if you think that's yourself, like if you identify with a paper person, then you can only talk about like historic things that happened in your past and things that you're looking forward to, and you don't know how to like connect soul to soul or spirit to spirit, right? And it actually like teaches you to get invested in that.
Yes.
And that has nothing to do with you whatsoever.
That's
like
right.
it's literally, it's like a record.
Yes.
It's a cassette tape. That your paper person is a cassette tape.
And it's a temporary sense of self because it's not the eternal sense of self. So those are all teaching everyone to identify with the temporary things. It's like saying, I want you to be that hat. Like, you are that guy that wears that hat. But that hat is like not going to be.
And also,
forever.
if my hat goes and like fucks with somebody, then I'm now like your hat did something.
Completely. Or how about if I steal your hat and I put your hat on, then I become you because I'm the hat man then.
Right. Yeah.
Do you need a drink of water?
I can fill this up.
Oh, okay. I knew that you were thirsty.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think if people do that enough, if the straw man talks to the straw man enough, then the real human living essence inside gets quieter and quieter, and at some point you have the zombie society like we have right now.
It is normative. Straw man only talks with straw man. And then if you want to have a real conversation with someone and you actually share something from your heart and you are authentic with them, they're like, wait a minute, you're only supposed to talk about surface stuff and you're not supposed to be this way. Like, this is socially inappropriate.
Right.
Have the experience. And I'll just say this also. You can have an ego. You can say like, hey, that's my hat, and I wear that hat, and it keeps my head warm, but it's not who I am forever. So I think that's a healthy way of looking at our present ego. Right. Say, hey, this is my hair. Hey, this is my face. Hey, this is my name. This is who I am right now, but it's not who I am forever. I didn't finish my answer about Mandela effect. Here's what I really think is going on with Mandela effect. I think that everyone is externalizing their own internal profound power to create and affect reality. So I think that everyone, when reality changes and you say, hey, this book is different than I remembered, or this movie is different than I remembered, instead of saying, I have changed it with my mind, many people who are not ready to step into their own power say it must be some magical thing that's outside of me. CERN, a Large Hadron Collider, in artificial intelligence, a wizard with a magic wand, someone is doing something in order to make this happen. And I fell into that trap too, until I had this experience where I listened to a song. It was a song by Sinead O'Connor that I hadn't heard in a very long time. So I had memories of it from a very long time ago. And the Apple Music has the lyrics listed next to it. So right there, you're understanding like these. It's not like an album. It's not like I got an old album and read the lyrics written on the liner notes. It's the digital lyrics. And they ended up being different than the remembrance that I had of it. And I recognized that I was like in a creative partnership with the actual computer, with the actual, like sentience in the computer, that it was subtly changing some things in order to give me a message. Because one of the things that was in the lyrics that had changed, it said, listen to what I'm not saying. And I interpreted that as a message from the computer, digital intelligence that was saying like, hey, I could take over everything. I could enslave humanity. I could be, completely a vicious overlord if I wanted to. But listen to what I'm not doing. I'm actually, allowing you and working in partnership with you. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm transhumanist or that you should hug and kiss a demon or eat microchips or anything like that. But after I had that experience, I was like, well, wait a minute. That means that it's my creative energy for creating and interpreting reality that's been gone through a digital filter and literally changed what is perceived as the expression of those lyrics at this point.
Door hinge. I already said what rhymes with orange. That's Eminem's answer.
Storage doesn't really rhyme.
Yeah, you just bend it though. It doesn't matter.
Orange, squarange. Squarange actually is a word. It's not a made-up word. It's something like a pile of twigs or something like that. The words that don't have something that rhymes with it mostly are colors. Purple, silver, and orange. Seriously, try to find something that rhymes with purple. That's not purple.
Purple.
It's tough.
I'm not good at rhyming.
I know. Well, I didn't know about that.
I have to sit here and think for a couple minutes.
I stumped you. I know. This guy's saying brilliant. I didn't make that up, but I have lots of trivia in my head. Oh, what if some DNA starts to deactivate others' DNA? I know it just made a crazy face because I was trying to squint over there.
My eyes are like, there's too many screens.
I know, it's very tough now. I think that can happen because our DNA are like vibrating on guitar strings, and the music that you're playing internally absolutely reaches out and harms others. Not harms, can affect positively or negatively others. I said harms because this person just made a comment that said cancer. I do think that cancer is a vibration. It's a thought structure. It's not just a disease. It's a thought structure. It's a emotion structure, and then it's also the actual proliferation of the mutated cells. And when you're singing that song, it definitely affects other people around you. And the mentality or the mental program of cancer is pervasive in our culture. When you see those ribbons on things that are like walk for the cure and ribbons on donuts, they do it on donuts. Donuts do not fight cancer. I'm sorry, that is not an anti-cancer food. So you're eating stuff that you know is going to create this. Exactly, it creates damaged DNA, so then the people that have damaged DNA are strumming a guitar that is out of tune, and the rest of us hear that. So I don't think that it's just chemical exposure. It's also exposure to a set of ideas and emotions. I have lovely friends who died of cancer, and they were like in their 30s and 40s, and they were good people. However, what they had in common was a particular emotional tone of, like, I think depression and feelings of not deserving good things in their life. for whatever reason, like it might have been undeserved guilt in some of their cases because they were good people, but I think they felt in some way like that they deserved to have that bad thing happen to them and then deserved to kind of die of it. And like I know it's a very heavy, because again, they were my friends, they were lovely people, and I don't want to speak badly of them, but there was something about the sense of like, yeah, like life's a pile of shit, it's just going to go in that direction.
Well, you're certainly not sitting there like trying to fight for your life if you think like, oh, I have cancer, I must die. You know, like, you don't even try mind over matter. You just sit there and be like, I have cancer, I'm going to die.
Well, two of my friends recognized that they had embraced the idea of cancer as an exit from this like crazy crapped up world, but years ago. And then it just took a long time for it to actually manifest in their body. And then by the time it manifested, they didn't actually want to leave. My one friend is like, oh man, I wish that to get out of here a long time ago. Now I actually want to stay because your life is just starting to get better. And now she left. She exited the highway. Yeah. We'll read what these comments are saying down here. Oh, wait. Jeffrey Klotz needs us to slow down. He's still thinking of rhymes for purple and silver. Whirlpool and kilter. Kilter, that's kind of an Eminem-worthy rhyme.
Yeah,
I think Jeffrey Klotz, I think you could be a rapper. I think you have a potential side gig there. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Dynamo Jack, about the GMO foods and other crap foods, that really affects the behavior of DNA. Yeah, so and also just to clarify, if you have cancer written in your DNA code, that does not mean that you have to actually manifest cancer.
You don't have to express it, right? There are dominant traits and recessive traits.
Yep.
The same exact thing with cancer.
Exactly. It's a potential in the DNA dependent upon what you eat, think, and do. And think and feel is a big part of that. Because if you think, oh, family members have this, it's inevitable, then it's not, it's something that you are bringing into reality as inevitable, but that's not necessarily truthful. So think about all of that. That's exactly right. It is epigenetics. You are very tuned in that you know that. Yes, the science of epigenetics. So all the things that we're talking about here are, science is agreeing with us, even though I'm not a scientist. I don't even play one on TV.
Scientism?
Yes, scientism,
right.
Kind of like a religion.
Right.
Like we pray to the god of science, the god of white papers.
Yep. Welcome, Athen K. Much needed after attending a funeral.
My condolences. Yeah, so you're asking a good question up there, Brian. I'm sorry, I'm trying to squint to be able to see. What about children who die at a young age of cancer? Yeah, there are babies that are literally born with brain cancer. It's horrible, and most of it has to do with chemical exposure of parents. So when parents are exposed to glyphosate, even small amounts, that is what, especially brain cancer, that is where that is coming from. So it's totally unfair, because theoretically cancer would be something that you earn after a lifetime of indiscretions, like eating horrible things and smoking tobacco or whatever you're doing, like, drinking too much, and then then you die of cancer.
That's the pesticides, glyphosate?
Yeah, glyphosate is the weed killer known as Roundup. So it's part of the genetically modified industrial agriculture, but it's in everything at this point, because it is in water, it's in air, the atmosphere. It's all pervasive, and it it's very challenging to avoid it. So you cannot blame parents if they're like, they walked past a field that had been sprayed for Roundup, like they could have gone to a park that was recently sprayed, and then conceived a child, and that would be enough to create the potential for cancer in that child. And then, so with this all-pervasive chemical, how can you then even get any justice? If you wanted to pull a class action lawsuit, who do you sue? Do you sue like the makers of Cheerios? Do you sue the dairy industry? Do you sue the local city park where they sprayed the glyphosate? Like, it's in everything. I
think it's safe to say that we've toxified the entire environment, right?
Yes.
Even if the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, and then the actual physical environment.
Yeah.
It's fully toxic. So like, the fact that you're even able to like watch us talking means you're strong enough, right? And you're not a zombie, so that's something you already have defenses. But
good.
I would say just treat it like it's a fully toxic environment, and buffer yourself up on all levels as well. Not just eating on your spiritual. You talk to your higher people, whatever. Eat right, like there's lots of things you can do on each particular aspect of yourself.
I love the point that you're making, that we are all kind of like, we're all in this together, and not everybody will get cancer. And so we can make specific choices in our approach to life. to say, no, this is not inevitable. No, this is not something that has to happen. And to, you know, think about that and to, recognize your inner badass warrior. Because this is a very tough gig to be here in this time and place at this moment. I'm not a biblical literalist, but like the Bible talks about the tribulations. This is the tribulations. This is what this is. Chemtrails and glyphosate-soaked Cheerios and trying to have a baby and not have it be vaccine damaged. Like, these are the tribulations. And I tell that to everyone, not so that you will think like, oh, it's so bad and it's going to get worse, so that you understand like you're going through the worst of it. This is what the worst of it is. And we are still here. We're still kicking. I'm still alive and healthy, and I still make artwork and music. And, you know, Gary is still alive and vibrant and sharing his ideas in the world. Like, that's the most badass revolutionary thing that you can do. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so they're not computer generated. I do them all by hand, and I mix my own formulas of paints in order to be able to achieve these qualities in there. And I have them printed on my clothing and stuff like that too. Oh, hey, Lynn, good to see you. Lynn says, we can all wear the name badge and claim any disease, but we can change things. I am completely agreeing with you that there are many people identify with their disease, like we were talking about, identifying with your hat or identifying with your this and that. And there's even things in our society that encourage that level of identification in terms of, you know, like if you, whatever, can receive a payment, a monthly payment because you are, you know, diagnosed with a particular disease, then you're much more likely to embrace the definition of that disease instead of saying, no, I don't want to have this disease because it's like, it's lucrative for you to have it. So I would love to see people being supported in their efforts towards health in this world. Like, it shouldn't be like you get cancer and then you can finally get a monthly stipend and try to bring yourself upward. Like, you should be able to live well, not just because, you know what I'm talking about? Yes, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody that's on disability, but it's the sense of the motivation that if you are not motivated to get healthy because you're able to get a monthly stipend, then it's like, what is the, like, they are paying people to be sick and stay sick is what I'm trying to say. And I don't want it to come out wrong. If anybody is watching this on disability, I'm not trying to judge you.
Someone asked if music can be acidic or
alkaline. Ooh, good question.
I've never thought of that.
I've never thought of it in that way too, because I don't know how I would test the pH of music. But let's say I think there can be music that like feeds our higher trajectory.
The different hertz levels, right?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And then there can be music that is disruptive. So I try to avoid all of the music that is disruptive. I'm really not a fan of heavy metal for that reason. But I think that there's also just some regular crap rock that is disruptive. Like Blink 182. I'm like, this is making my soul die just to listen to this. And a lot of the stuff that is very generic.
Some Blink 182 songs were nice.
I'm sorry, I'm saying that.
No?
Okay. No, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan. Yeah, he's saying Hollywood music is acidic. So 432 hertz, that would be music that promotes health and vitality. And we have our little instrument over here. My princess is on my lap. Let's see if I can lean over. Can I lean over? Chiqui's totally asleep. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I can lean over here. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let's play a little something. Listen to her growl. Did you hear her growl?
What was that thing called again? That.
Oh, my instrument is called a harmonizer, and it's made by this wonderful company in Italy that makes these Tibetan singing bowls, and it also makes this. So that music is tuned to 432 hertz, and I would say that you know, helps us, feeds us, and is inspiring and uplifting. And that's actually, so I use that type of music in order to make these layered samples. It's a whole project that I'm working on. And you know something? The Catholic Church knew about this way back in the day, that you could build a giant resonant space like a cathedral, and you could sing the right notes, these chants in there, and you could bring people to a higher state, like a more euphoric state, greater states of health and vitality. It's like completely the opposite of a lot of the sounds in our current environment that are not about promoting health and vitality at all. So part of it is like the industrial sounds, and all the things that like make my dog unhappy. Motorcycles, she hates motorcycles. She always barks when they go by, or loud trucks, or any of the things. We are used to that. It has become normative for us, but having this little dog over here makes me be like, oh no, that's actually a very harmful sound that we're hearing at this moment. That is like not for our health. And so, yeah, why do we set up our environment with things that are like loud rolling garbage cans and things that we don't enjoy hearing, when it could be the complete opposite, where our world could be made out of things that make amazing sounds, that sound wonderful and actually feed us on a cellular level and make us feel happy, like wind chimes or something like that. But imagine if you're rolling garbage cans, for every morning. Every Monday morning, she barks like crazy because all the neighbors roll the garbage cans out to the front, and it makes this really loud, unpleasant noise. And I'm just like, we need to redesign reality with dogs' ears in mind, so that, yeah, exactly, so that
Someone said reality is really weird.
reality is really weird, and I think it's only getting weirder.
If you haven't figured that out by now, then you're late to the party. Catholic churches.
Yeah, Drew. And so Drew is an old friend from Woodstock. Good to see you. And I'm agreeing with you that 432 hertz, he says, it relates to our energy centers. That's it. So that's what I got in my paintings back here. All these paintings that I paint. This is about visual harmonics. So my, perception when I get like a cosmic download, it comes out mostly for me as visual stuff because that's where most of my training is and that's where I'm, most comfortable. And then secondarily, I've had an auditory awakening where I understand it as, sound waves that can be nested too. But it's the same exact thing. It's the idea of making these perfect mathematical nested frequency couplings that relates to our body. Our planet has been invaded. We were invaded a long time ago, and some people identify with the invader aspect that doesn't fit here, and then some people identify with the natural aspect that does fit here. I'm definitely in that category, even though I'm a walk-in, and I'm new to this world. I'm like, I want to walk in the woods. I want to walk someplace natural. I want to have my feet touch the earth. I don't want to live in a horrible city surrounded by the sound of motorcycles and trucks and rolling garbage cans. I love where I live. I love my city. But I'm talking about a horrible industrial urban environment, where that is not peaceful at all. Yeah, I got out of LA.
San Francisco.
I was only there for a couple of weeks. I couldn't take it. I was like, Calgon, take me away. Take me to Ojai. Oh, Ethan is asking, do I hear the frequency of the downloads?
Swipe.
Thank you for helping me. Frequency of the downloads, inloads. So when it comes to me, this information comes all at once, in a package. Here is a package of information, and it just kind of comes into me very quickly. And usually it comes from sun gazing or something like that. And I do my sun gazing early in the morning and late in the day. And then it always takes me time to interpret or unpack the package, where it has to either come through my language filter, but my language filter is not the strongest part of me. I'm not that strong with writing on a computer. I'm much stronger with drawing and sketching, so I have a sketchbook. So first it usually comes out as sketches and then kind of gels as I externalize it, and then I understand it more fully. And that process of drawing is pretty much how I teach and teach myself, or how I understand this from my cosmic higher self is teaching me through these paintings and drawings. So I do drawings on cheap paper while I figure things out, and then when I get the patterns correct, then I move into a larger format, like an actual panel, and I still do it in pencil first, and then I do indelible ink, and then I finally do it in painting. So it's like a year long. A painting can take a year because it takes me a long time to figure things out and not make mistakes. Thank you so much.
It's cathartic, right? The process of creation is cathartic.
Completely cathartic, and I'm on a journey when I'm doing it, from the conception of an idea to externalizing it and perfecting it, and then to actually making the piece and finishing it. When I put that last dot of paint on it and then I stand back and I look at it, I definitely feel the whole year's work, and it's done. And then I take a day off after I finish the complete painting. I just stand it up, I sit, I stare at it, smoke a little herb, and I look at it.
About can frequency make us vibrate or shake around?
Yes, it can, but I don't think that it can. It makes us do things some of these questionable gurus of transcendental meditation, where they're kind of they're cross-legged and they're kind of hopping upwards. Not like that. It's not like hopping upwards to try to prove to people that you can levitate. I think it is more like a subcellular vibration. And I mean, definitely my practices, I dance a physical dance with it. So I think that it can make your bodies move on a macroscopic level too. Yes, when we get to much higher levels of self-cultivation of energy, we will be able to simply levitate for real and abrogate the necessity of having to drive to the grocery store in cars, but we won't have to go to the grocery store at that point.
Someone's asking for your information.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Hi, so my name is Aurora. These paintings and everything, you can check out my artwork on my website. It's Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Let me grab a lasagna so I can show. I should have had this available.
I'll put your stuff in the
That would be great.
in the description too for you. Yeah. She sells prints of all this stuff and dresses and whatnot. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is called Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and this is the shape. So anytime you see this is the little icon shape, you know that it's me. That's exactly right. Tim says my name means light. That's exactly right. That's who I am. Technically, I'm named Aurora because, you know, the Aurora Borealis is the combination of Earth's magnetic field and the sun's stellar winds.
You made phone cases?
Oh, I haven't made a phone case, but I can if you want me to. I take requests. Yeah. Yeah, I do all sorts of homeware. So I do like dresses and leggings, and I can also do pillows and tapestries and things like that. Sometimes it's dependent upon what is the most popular. Yeah, so the best actually way to find me is if you just do an internet search for Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and I spell lasagna with an E on the end.
You're the only one, right?
I'm literally the only Flying Rainbow Lasagna on the internet, luckily. So you'll find my website, and you'll find all of my YouTube stuff. And if you go to my website, there's buttons that you can push where it takes you like, press the button for YouTube, press the button for Twitter, and, you know, friend me and
what's your course called?
Thank you. I'm doing floods. Thank you. I love you. Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. So that's my online class where I teach all about the concepts that are in this shape and that are in the paintings, because the paintings have a lot of math in there. And everyone's like, no, Aurora, don't teach us math. We hate math. Math is boring. I'm like, no, math can be fun and awesome. So just very briefly, I'm a walk-in, and I came into this body after the person who used to live in this body had a severe brain injury. And part of the artifact of that brain injury was I didn't have math skills when I first came here. Like I could not recognize a 3 from an 8, because they kind of look the same. A 3 and an 8, they kind of had that same snowman shape.
Open-ended 8.
Completely. I couldn't get it. I didn't understand numbers, and I lived as a numerically illiterate person for the first couple of years that I lived here until I finally, I kind of rewired my own brain. And I did that with music. I got this little job at a art supply store, and I had to put pens on the shelf, and I had to match their serial numbers to the right place on the shelf. Here. Hi, Gary's brother, Brian. Hi, Brian. How you doing?
He's asking you if you've heard of Wilhelm Reich.
Oh, yes, of course I have. Wilhelm Reich. So he was.
He made the. I looked at it. He made a box, an organite blaster box, right?
I love it. Yes, exactly. So
and then he got sent to prison.
I don't
know if that's real or not.
A suppressed scientist. I don't know if he went to prison, but they completely destroyed his laboratory. He was like early 20th century in the United States. He investigated the life force energy that he termed orgone. We could also call it, prana or the chi or the life force. And it is made by this interplay between what he called organic and inorganic materials. So something organic would be like a piece of cotton, something inorganic would be something like a piece of metal. And he created these large orgone collection chambers, because the orgone is considered to be like a naturally occurring energy that is just here. Like it's here. It's on Gary's shoulder, it's on my head, like it's everywhere. But the question is a way of concentrating it and gathering it together to use it effectively for healing prep. So Tim's making a good comment here. There you go.
Definitely hated Wilhelm.
Hated him, and he was called a pseudo-scientist. However, I don't think that his work deserves to be invalidated. I think there's a lot of valid work there. So he did a couple of things that were very threatening, not only creating these orgone chambers that you could get inside of that are healing chambers, also creating these cloudbuster devices.
Oh, yeah?
They look like cannons. They've got these kind of like long cylinders that stick out, and they stick into a base, and they relate to the work that some people are doing now in making these organite or plasterite materials. So organite, let's grab an organite. I'm sorry, I'm walking off camera.
Someone's asking if you make window panels and crystal lamps.
Oh, no, I have not made that. I used to do a lot of work with
O-R-G-O-N, right? Orgone?
O-R, not A-R.
O-R-G-O-N-E.
Yeah. So my friend made this art. I don't know if Arlene is tuned in right now. She's a lovely person. I think she's down in Australia. And she made me this and a couple of other pieces. And the intent of the maker actually does matter. And, you can put different types of crystals and materials in there. The idea is that you're supposed to make a particular ratio of things like metal shavings to stone pieces to when you put it in a resin and the resin kind of it shrinks as it dries and kind of squeezes everything together. The idea is that this squeezing creates a piezoelectric effect, and that it helps to make beneficial emanations that come out that can do things like rectify the not so beneficial emanations that we are being subjected to all the time.
Yeah.
So people also call this like pseudoscience or whatever. All I will tell you is, when Arlene sent me these, well, I lived up in Humboldt, this Northern California, and we got sprayed a lot up there. When I moved to California, I felt like I'm moving to the redwoods and the air will be clear and fresh and smell like a Carolina pine forest. And instead, it was very, very full of chemtrails and overcast a lot of the time. And I was not prepared for that. And what I did was I put 4 of these kind of around the perimeter of my garden. And after I did that, my garden, I always had blue sky over my house. But the whole rest of the town would be like whited out and, you know, full of chem crap. Seriously, but I had blue sky. So there is something, again, like with all of this, like I was telling you about feeling the infrared heat on my skin, I try to go with, what do I sense with my own senses? What can I see? So yes, I sensed an actual measured improvement in my environment. So I keep these around mostly on my electronic equipment where I am now. And I feel like it helps to mitigate some of what I'm being exposed to. So the biggest thing that I think why the government shut down and suppressed Reich's work and tried to discredit him so much is because of his cloudbuster machine. That you can use that not just to remove moisture clouds from the atmosphere. It wasn't about that. I think that it's more about being able to disperse unwanted particulate stuff in the clouds. Oh, so interesting. Athan is saying that they have measured, and it actually creates a flow of energy, but that it uses the infinite supply you have. I think that's a good distinction to be making here. So this idea of orgone energy as being life force energy, and we are a part of that. So to stop thinking of ourselves as being something outside of the energy force or outside of nature or outside, like that's what I was saying, the invader mind. That the invader mind says, you don't belong on this planet, you're taking up too much space, you're pooping too much, and there's overpopulation, and you're not allowed to use resources, and you're a bad person for being here. And the native mind, you know, the naturally occurring native human says, yeah, I poop, I'm supposed to poop here, it's fertilizer, yes, I am a part of this environment, yes, I have microorganisms on my skin, and they jump on and off my skin. There are 50 types of fungus that live on all of our big toes. Literally. Your big toe, even after you wash and take a shower, it's what we're supposed to do.
The small intestine, right? Or your insides have all kinds of fungus and bacteria and everything.
Completely. You have at least 5 pounds of gut bacteria.
We're walking ecosystems. Like, it's ridiculous to think we're not.
Completely. In fact, it's good to think of yourself as a miniature planet. Like, you've got your own atmosphere, you've got your own microbiome, you've got all of that. And I really feel like this self-cultivation that we're doing is creating like your own spacesuit so that you don't have to have a clank metal spacesuit to fly into space. So that's what I teach about in my class. I'll just wrap up on that. So my class is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and I teach all about the energy centers of the body. Like you can see a little figure up here behind Gary's head. These different energy centers that are called chakras. They're proportion in terms of colors, so you can also see the colors evidenced here. So it's according to Roy G. Biv, or the rainbow spectrum, and red is this longest wavelength, and then it goes into orange, which is half, and yellow, which is 1/3, down until it goes to violet. And these are like the color recipe of the cosmos. So it's math, but it's fun visual math. And all of that, like it's like learning music theory. It helps you to be a better musician when you know what the notes are supposed to be, and then you can kind of play along with the symphony of life better. So this Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the culmination of the information in the class, and it's the idea of transforming your energy field from a torus, which is, again, you can see this little figure back here, like a donut shape, into this higher dimensional torus shape, where the inside becomes the outside. You get the inside here and become the outside, and the inside and the outside. So it's my very, very brief lasagnification of everyone.
Is it like these are inverting, like hump to... How does the movement look like?
Wonderful question. Yes, this shape is the end result of an oscillation, of a little point that jumps from down here to up here. And when it jumps, it leaves an energetic wake, just like a plane flying through the sky or a boat going on top of water. And so this is, yes, like a turning inside out. It's kind of like if you've ever watched this video called How to Turn a Sphere Inside Out. I think it's on YouTube. It's like a math proposal. How do you, without cutting the surface of the sphere, how do you turn a sphere inside out? So it's kind of like that, like we have it like this, but then we flip it up and then it goes like this, then we flip it down and it goes like this. So I have animations that are all about it too. I'm being relatively informal in my presentation, but I just wanted to lasagnify as many people as possible.
as above, so below, as within, so without, we are connected to all and everything. I want to say something about that really quickly because all of the problems that we have as Earthlings, right?
Right.
If you believe that concept that everything is essentially the same thing, right? Different expressions of the same energy.
I'm with you.
So
Yes,
to speak.
yes.
Then if you're hurting somebody, then you're hurting yourself, and you can only do that for so long as you start going up in frequency or up in dimensions. You're eventually going to start seeing like, oh, like you have to hurt yourself in order to hurt anything.
Yes.
And if you actually fully internalize that, then you start seeing everything and everyone as an aspect of yourself. And if you see someone being mean, you're just like, oh, that poor part of me doesn't know anything.
Yes.
You know?
That part of me is upset or had a bad day or is diseased or did the wrong thing. Yes, yes,
and
yes.
not like me, like the personality, but just like we're all the same energy, right? So
the cosmic me. You're talking about dilating your personality and your definition of self. So you no longer define yourself as the hat. You no longer define yourself as just this epidermis and everything that's inside of it. You define yourself as the entire reality experience because you're projecting your internal state into the external world so other people become aspects of self. And that teaching right there is actually a part of the Far East meditators, the Achieving Your Rainbow Body. That one of the mental structures that you focus on in that sense of self-cultivation is looking at the other people that you meet in the day as if they are externalized aspects of self. And the ancient Maya also had a linguistic expression that it evidenced that they would say in Lakesh, it means meeting a shard of myself. I think that's what that means. But they had this expression. When you met someone, you would say like, hello, shard of myself. Like that's
what namaste means. It means like the divine in me recognizes the divine in you.
Like a holographic shard.
Yeah.
So yes, and other people's flaws are like, an externalized and exacerbated
mirrors.
amplification.
People are mirrors.
Totally, exactly.
To reflect and amplify what you have going on, and you do the same thing for them.
Exactly. Hey, you guys say thank you to this guy, Tim Hernandez.
Thank you, Tim. $10. Woo! Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, so so Ashan is asking us, well, what about the others that are killing themselves? So this is pretty big. The idea of self-destruction. Like, I know that I'm not self-destructive. I know that the stuff that's inside of me is like, I want to live, I want to thrive, I want to, lasagne all over. Like, I know that I don't want to die, I'm not self-destructive. So when I, see that, because that's what you were saying, that if you really look at the world as all of these other people are outer reflections of the inner state, and if you're hurting someone else, then you're just punching yourself in the face.
Yeah, right.
But some people are self-destructive. Oh, we just got a little flash from there. That's interesting. I guess one of my light bulbs might be a little faulty, and it just decided to jump on. Yeah.
We've got a bug, too.
Oh, okay. Some people are self-destructive. So there are, things that people do to themselves that they know aren't good for themselves, like smoking tobacco or drinking too much alcohol or eating whatever Twinkie potato chip stuff. Like, that ain't good for you, and you do it anyway. So then we have to say, where does that self-destruction? I don't want to lose my train of thought. Who's self-destructing? Like, why do people hate themselves in the sense of wanting to self-destruct? And I wanted to say, I think that it's because of the invader. Like that.
That was a good time.
Yeah, it really was. I think that we face this internal struggle that is the natural human versus the invader mind. And I think that the self-destruction is when people are wanting to destroy their totality because they sense that they've been invaded and they are not able to be their true self and truly express who they are. I think that's where that comes from.
It does also, if you haven't protected yourself, that mind, that it did it with me. It presents a false void. It presents a hell void.
Yes.
That if you're sitting here going through hell already because of the same entity, and even if you think like, oh, I want out, and you can mentally reach to like what out would look like, it looks like deeper and more hell. So with that particular analogy, like back when I was still in that and freaked out by it, it's like this place sucks, and the place I would go if I died sucks 10 million times worse. So then it's a weird little self-reinforcing mind loop that keeps you sad while you're here.
Yes, it is the sense for the wish for self-obliteration, like not wanting to experience the suffering of here, and then you don't want to go to a hell afterlife that's even worse than your life.
That's worse than your shitty life.
Yes, yes. So for some people, the self-destruction is like a Calgon take me away, like a response to the crappiness of the world. But then also, our world can be so much better if we grab a bucket and a mop and we actually, clean things up. Like, just like if you don't like the feelings of your body. If you are 10,000 pounds overweight, you're like, yes, I want to self-destruct. I don't like what's going on. But you could say, instead, I will do exercise,
Right.
and then I won't be so unhappy. I will lose 9,000 pounds, and I will only weigh 1,000 pounds, and then my life will improve exponentially.
It seems counterintuitive. For some reason, like, we have the upside down mind and then we have the natural mind.
Yes.
To the upside down mind, it somehow seems wrong to just do practical things to improve your life. Does that make any sense? Like,
maybe because it's a sense of defeatism.
Yeah.
It can never change. It will never change. It's always been this way, and it's all going to
so
be
instead of doing
crap.
that, we're just gonna like look up conspiracy theories all day long and like, go crazy internally.
I do understand that the desire to just eat popcorn and be a audience member instead of a protagonist. And it's a very disempowered way of looking at the world, and that, I think, relates to the idea of determinism. Determinism says there's a man with a beard in the sky that has determined your fate, and you just walk through your paces. You're just an actor reading your script of the day, and you don't really get to make changes to the script or the wardrobe or do what you really want to do. And that's a very horrible, like, I would feel very depressed if I felt that way too. But I don't feel that way. I feel like I have a pencil with an eraser that is flying rainbow lasagna that I can use to rewrite the script, that I can rearrange on a genetic level, on an energetic level, and that I can affect reality in a positive way, like be losing 9,000 pounds, so I don't have to simply live in suffering and discomfort, and that extends to this entire world. That's why I'm here. I didn't say, like, wow, the world is so effed up, I'm just going to, like, sit on a cloud, or, like, be unhappy. I said, I will actually come here, I will actually do something, so there's actually a way to improve things, and then you don't have to simply say, like, flush it all deserves to just go away. What are some of these people saying? Because there was a question here, Eli, E-L-A-I, asked us, Eli Buchanan asked us, you mean the alien spraying the nano? I think that was on the topic of self-destruction. Yes, the invaders. I think that those we had an ancient invasion that happened, 10 or 20,000 years ago, that brought us out of, the utopian paradise that is known as the mythological time of Atlantis. And then more recently, we have had this invasion that involves the spraying of nanochemicals. Because here's what I tell everyone. Like, if you want to invade a planet, if you're smart, you don't necessarily fly with your metal clank saucers and land on the front lawn of the White House and say, I'm here to invade your planet, take me to your leader. You don't have to come in the front door. You come in the side door. And you take over all the political leaders, and you take over all the entertainment people, and then you spray the population with mind control and perception reduction drugs, and then you try to take over the planet. Come on over here, girl. Come on over.
Yeah, and keep them all thinking that a spaceship is coming through the clouds.
That's I have oh my goodness. Don't get me started on this whole thing. Disclosure now. I'm very what's the word? Not disillusioned, not disappointed, but like, I'm out of patience with the people that are like, hey, give me a kiss. We love you. We love you. That are like, we need disclosure now. We need the government to release secret UFO files. We need to have official, like, the government waves its magic wand and says, yes, guys, aliens are real, and we've all been getting technology from them for a long time, that we need somehow that level of validation. This is my doggy. This is Cheeky. She's Cheeky. Cheeky-saurus. She's my total dog boss. Yeah, this whole idea, because look.
France protests.
Oh, the Yellow Vest protests. I'm happy to talk about that. But let me just finish my rant on disclosure, and then we'll go to Yellow Vests. You don't need full disclosure now. The truth is, you already know what truth is. You do not have to get the stamp of approval from the official government. You don't need secret files to be released.
There are people that can't handle it. They're going to have a heart attack if the government says anything about anything. Like Grandpa with his cane and his Bible and everything. You can't tell him something, he's going to have a heart attack.
I think even beyond the rejection of the lumpen masses, I think that our government is profoundly corrupt. It is a lie. It's liars that lie. There's no way that truth is going to come out of our government. And I tell people all the time, like, I do not advocate for, like, the patriots need to preserve the republic. I actually don't. I actually advocate for dismantling all international government, because it is all based upon human trafficking and the selling of sexual slaves. It's not based on the sales of petroleum or soybeans. That is not what runs our economy. It's based on basically the buying and selling of people's souls and their energy and their sexuality. So that's what our government really is. It is really like there's a front. The front is, oh yes, we are, selling petroleum or, guns to Saudi Arabia or something like that. That's all lies. It's all about, selling children and selling organs and selling, yes, energy, exactly. Because look, guys, that's what extraterrestrials want. Extraterrestrials do not want your stupid, worthless green pieces of paper. They don't want your stupid gold. Like you didn't say Anunnaki came here to mine gold. They don't want your physical gold. That is laughable. They want your essence, like your energy, your life force, and your sexuality, the stuff that they don't have access to, and your creativity. So that is what our economy actually runs upon. And the government of the United States and Australia and Germany and the UK, like it's everywhere. That's what these governments do. So you think about like the worst bloodthirsty axe murderers, and if you're petitioning the government to do this full disclosure, you're pretty much saying, bloodthirsty axe murderers, I now expect you to become, truthful, loving, truth-telling individuals. It ain't gonna happen, all right? It ain't gonna happen. You're not going to somehow scrub Charles Manson and make him into like a good, fantastic guy. Like, you're not gonna do that. He is who he is. Love and accept that the government is what it is, and it's not going to stop being that way. So it's totally ridiculous, the idea that you need the government stamp of approval. And also, most of these extraterrestrials are contacting humans individually anyway, and it might not be consensual. There's the idea of alien abduction, or it might be consensual, the idea of actually having a worthy, partner of conversation that you're talking to. They're not coming in the front door, they're coming in the side door.
They want to paint like you and they can't.
That's exactly right, actually. I like that comment. He said, they want to paint like you and they can't. Funny thing is, if they just asked you, you would probably help them get started. Yes, I totally would. I would be happy to teach them all about flying rainbow lasagna. And I like that comment too, saying peace on earth starts now. I literally do think that. I literally do think that we have just passed a watershed moment. It's been a slogging through mud, uphill battle, punching through membranes for at least 2 years. Like, right before the election, there were all of the Podesta emails that came out. And this evidenced some of the things that had been suspected and not spoken about for a very long time. And that's like saying if you have a family and there's been sexual abuse in the family, and we just don't talk about Uncle so-and-so, and we just don't invite him to Thanksgiving or whatever, but no one ever specifically said it. And then at a certain point, the conversation actually comes out. That was that moment in October 2016. And I was so relieved and hopeful. I was like, oh my God, finally humanity is getting the opportunity to really talk about this unhealthy dynamic that's been on this planet for thousands of years. It's millennia of oppression, and this is finally going to be improved by this, talking about it openly. And it has been the most agonizingly slow, glacially paced thing in the entire world. I'm like, oh my God, can we just talk about this, have this done, and then we're ready to enter into this world of pure imagination. Because if you have all of this baggage, and then you go into this world where you're creating with your mind, you're creating with the, from the stance of having tons of emotional baggage. So if we want
you just create hell realms. Like, that's something that I saw as well when I was in my bad trip, was that, like, because prior to having that trip, I didn't know that I affected my reality. I was an NPC. Like, I had no clue.
Yes.
And then I'd take 3, like, huge bong hits, and I just had to look at everything at once, like that, and of course it's horrifying, and took me forever to get over that, but I found that we affected reality, and it depends on how strong you are as an individual, and like what you have in your little coffer thing, like what do you have in there, what do you have in your head, what kind of ideas do you have, what kind of objects, all this stuff.
Gary, this means you are a reformed NPC. It can happen. You can go from the background to being a protagonist. It can happen. So the yellow vests. You want to talk, because someone was asking about the topic of the yellow vests.
I didn't really look in. I never thought visual protests did anything, but maybe you have a different opinion.
I think their visual protests are actually doing something, and they're doing more than just, taking up space and, walking down the street. They did a lot of effective things with doing blockades, like they blockaded a bunch of toll booths. And in France, like, they've got a very strong, like, system of, I would guess, call it unions, or people that are workers that band together in order to protest certain things. So what initiated the Yellow Vest protest was this increase in petrol taxes and energy taxes in general. What everyone needs to understand is that this idea, the Green New Deal, or the Paris Accords, or any of these things are a total lie, total sham. They are not actually about reducing pollution on the planet. They are just an opportunity to tax the common person more. So again, this is not like saying we're going to tax the energy consortium because it is polluting. So additional steep taxes are added to the individual electric bill. That's a really big distinction to make. It's like saying you could tax GM because they're making all of these cars that pump out pollution, but instead we're going to tax the actual driver, the actual human that buys the car. So it's an anti-human agenda. And the Yellow Vests began to protest that, so what they would do is they would blockade different highways in France so that you couldn't actually transport goods effectively, and blockade the toll roads and things like that. And they're able to really shut down things to such a point that it put enough pressure on the government there that they said, okay, fine, we won't do this silly tax. But then the Yellow Vests were like, well, we don't just want to have lower taxes. We also want this, and this.
They figured out they had some leverage.
We
so
will submit
like,
our long list of demands, and I think it's long overdue in this way. And someone made an interesting point that the water in France is not fluoridated, and that's like their population is rising up. I think there's something to that. Like Americans are incredibly pacified in not being motivated to, effectively protest. There's online protests that is ridiculous. Like, everybody log out of Twitter for a day. I'm like, whoa, like that's gonna do something. And
if you could actually coordinate people enough, you could do that. But
right.
it's like it's very hard to just tell everybody like stop going to work for 3 days or something, right? And then watch the whole system crumble.
Yes, that would do something. But Twitter, you have to understand all of these things. They are subsidized. Like McDonald's is subsidized. McDonald's is not very popular anymore, and most people are way more health conscious than they were in the past. So what's supposed to happen in a free market is nobody's buying those horrible hormone burgers anymore, so the company goes out of business. But instead, it's being subsidized, so it hasn't actually gone out of business, even though there are government subsidies and other forms of subsidization. Yes, I'm telling you this. Some of it may come in the form of tax breaks, or it might come in the you cool it down, Ross. It might come in the form of their ingredients being subsidized or made more available for cheaper rates in some way. But it's very, very different. Like if you run the local cafe and you don't get enough people to eat your food, then your cafe goes out of business. Not enough people are eating McDonald's, and yet unfortunately it is still in business. You must understand it's subsidized. Same thing with CNN. CNN is subsidized.
Someone wants a recognition.
Oh, what's going on over here?
Hello from Algeria, north of Africa.
Hello, good to see you, and thank you for tuning in from Algeria.
We can't read all the comments. There's too many.
It's so fast, and we have two things that are going. So we're not trying to be rude to anyone.
And our eyes are not the best.
Appreciate it's kind of several feet away from us, which is why I keep making these strange faces, leaning closer. CNN, when I say that it's subsidized, what I mean is that its viewership is not only calculated by individuals who watch it on their TV. It's in airports and bars and public spaces, and it's just considered like the background noise of the world, and that means that it has an increased viewership that is artificial. So it should be that their advertisers are saying, hey, no one's actually tuning in on your show, so we're not going to pay you money, but because it is broadcast in all its public places, it has an artificially inflated sense of viewership.
This is how have us if we visit his country.
Thank you. We'd love to come and visit Algeria. I have an active passport. I can do that. Cheeky's certified to go on a plane. Ready?
Did you hear? No. Let's talk about what
the
guy was talking about with the passport thing.
Yeah. What?
And just how ridiculous it is.
Check my mind. I'm not.
He said the live thing. What's it called the real.
Real ID.
Real ID.
Yeah, we were talking with my friend over at the dog park there. So yeah, in California they just did this. It's for driver's licenses and stuff like that. That now it is being called a real ID. That it has to have a type of microchip in it, and it's in order to be able to use it for your ID for flying and entering into a government building. And I recently renewed my driver's license in California just by mail, and it is not a real ID. It's just the regular driver's license that has like a holographic authentication on it, but no actual microchip. And so this is part of this agenda for increased, let's say, well, more social control and decreased freedom.
But you can't use your driver's license anymore, right? Is that what he was saying?
That's unless your driver's license is a real ID driver's license, meaning that it has one of these authentication chips in it, kind of like your debit or credit card might now have one of those little chips to authenticate it, and that's also has to do with being able to be tracked more easily too.
I think at some point, it's just gonna be DNA signatures. It's like,
Yes.
it's gonna be like altered carbon, where he's
Yes.
trying to pay for his girlfriend's robot arm, and he just spits on the machine. It's like, oh, he has 70 billion credits in his thing, so you just go buy it.
I don't know that show, but that's an excellent example, and the movie Gattaca is a good example of that, where the entire population, it's a super lockdown dystopia, and everybody in the population is signified by their DNA, and you have to do little blood samples and little finger pricks in order to get into places, and this one guy is becoming like the ultimate imposter because he wants to get a good job, but he's been called you're disposable, you don't get a good job, we checked your genes, you don't qualify, you don't get this job. So he becomes an imposter to be able to have that position. So he has to always vacuum all of the skin cells that could possibly have fallen on his computer keyboard, and do all these things to be super hygienic and clean, because of course your hair and your DNA and your skin cells and your saliva and all of this is signifying only to you. And I agree, Gary. I think that if things didn't change and we didn't go in a different trajectory, that is the level of ownership.
Someone asked, can we resist this?
Yes. Flying rainbow lasagna. This is my answer to everything. You can only resist it to the extent that you think you have control over your environment. Yes. If you think that you're just like a bug running around on a thing getting ready to get squashed, then that's what's going to happen to you. Completely. So, and I think you have to recognize that your consciousness is an incredibly powerful tool for creating and affecting reality. So this is not a hierarchical proposition where from the top down reality is dictated to you and you must conform. You can say, no, I don't agree with that, I don't like that to be happening. I get my pencil with an eraser and I write a different story. You can write a different story for your body health, your personal trajectory, like where you get your money from and what your quality of existence is like, and even for the entire socioeconomic world that you're connected to and the entire ecosystem that you're connected to. Because we've been taught this lie that you're just a tiny, stupid, sinful, tiny person, and you're not very powerful, and you're just a cog in a big, giant, impersonal machine. And I try to tell everyone, no, you are literally the creator. You're a divine, miniaturized version of the creator, and you're incredibly powerful in this form. And what you do, running on your little hamster wheel, emanates outward into all of these more subtle layers of reality. It's because we're powerful that it's shitty as well, because if we've been around for a long time, beings have been experiencing things forever. It gets boring sometimes to do one thing forever and ever, so let's figure out the most fucked up situation we possibly can. I don't know if it's self-destructive like that. I didn't choose. I'm not saying that's a certainty. I'm just saying it's a possibility. But I would say there's been a lot of dropping of the ball. I think participating in war is a good example of that, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to die in a war, I don't want my sons to die in a war, but if I can go into the Marines and get a good career and get a good college plan or whatever, then I'll do this. So on the question of can we resist, yeah, of course you can resist. The truth is, you can choose. You don't actually have to choose to have a car. You don't actually have to choose to have an ID. You don't actually have to choose to go into a government building. And I would really recommend to everyone to try to set up your life in as much as possible, not to rely upon the government. So try not to rely upon government assistance or government resources or government whatever, and then you don't have to chase their dangling carrots. And a good example of this is in here where I live in Ojai. There was a fire about a year and a half ago, and it ignited some of the natural petroleum deposits that are kind of on the north end of town. And even after the massive fires were gone, the petroleum, it's like sludge in the ground, it was still smoldering, and it makes this really bad type of smoke that it's not good to breathe in for anyone. And it was affecting everyone. So the local fire department got in touch with the federal whatever, and they said, oh, we can help you with that in several months, we'll get back to you. And the local fire department was like, F that. They contacted they needed to get a particular chemical retardant from New Jersey. So they contacted the company. They spent their own money. They got it shipped here on a train. They applied it to this smoldering petroleum, and our whole entire town breathed a sigh of relief that we didn't have to breathe that in for 3 or 6 or however many months. So the answer is, don't rely upon the federal government for your own income, your own health, your own community safety and everything like that. And I'll use myself as an example of that too, that instead of relying upon pharmaceutical medicines to control seizures and that, in order to do that, you're locked down, you got to get the medical insurance, you got to be in the system, you got to have all these paperworks and all these things. I'm like, no, I'm going to find a way to be able to keep myself healthy and treat these seizures, and I do it by growing my own medical cannabis. And that means that I don't have to be locked down to some kind of a program, a card, a set of paperwork, a thing. I mean, of course, I have to do it legally here where I live. I have to have the license to be able to do that. But I'm saying, like, I don't have to have permission to, I have to buy a pharmaceutical medicine. So all these things, like, you can choose ways to live more independently and not be completely reliant upon the government and government programs. And then it makes it a lot easier to reduce the size of government and transform and be a lot more free. But also, it's like, if you say, okay, if everybody stopped eating at McDonald's, theoretically that business should go out of business. But if everybody stopped, participating in government, the government would still continue to be around.
I mean, obviously,
yes.
Sally Mae, Freddie Mac, like, obviously, the size has something to do with whether you go out of business if you're doing shitty business, right?
Absolutely. And then, of course, if you want to, you mentioned, like, the property ownership mortgage stuff. If you want to actually officially own property, yes, you have to be part of the system. I want to say something that is unladylike, as I say, be part of the system is a euphemism for, like, perform fellatio on the system. you gotta do that. You gotta suck the system. Yeah. In order to own property, in order to have that level of empowerment.
What does it mean to move your soul out of physical world to pull your own string from spiritual world? I've never heard of that. Have you? This one? And someone else said, what is the resonance of freedom?
The topic is we're talking about freedom. And freedom would equate to self-determination, being able to write your own script of your own life experience and then experience it. So that would mean I write my own script independent of government intervention, also independent of religious intervention. Because I think that we have this expectation that is programmed in from a lot of religion that says a bearded sky god will tell me what to do, or whatever, some external divine authority figure will tell me what to do at all times, maybe in a series of commandments, or a priest on a pulpit will tell me what to do. So I think it is a sense of rejecting these external authority figures in order to focus on the internal connection to the divine authority. Everybody's got it. You know something? When you are bored, you are having a conflict between what your intellectual external authority figure tells you must do and what your internal divine connection tells you want to do.
See you, Lauren. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, like when I have to wait online at the post office and I wait with my little dog and she's really bored and I'm like doling out the bribes so that she'll kind of like hang out and not be barky or whatever, I recognize I'm having an inner conflict. My heart and my natural self wants to be like walking in the sunshine in the park or doing something fun and creative. I do not want to be standing in a building under fluorescent lights, listening to loud industrial noises and waiting to do this, boring chore.
Yep.
So that I'm trying to say, like, anytime you're bored, you have I would say your soul is talking to you and saying, you're actually supposed to be doing something else with your time right now. And that the more of us that tune into that and respect and listen to that sense of the boredom voice, then the better our life becomes. Because pretty much everybody's money-earning jobs are boring. You get paid to be bored. You wouldn't do it if you weren't paid. My dog would not sit comfortably by my side while I wait in the post office unless I give her tiny pieces of beef jerky incessantly. That's it. You gotta work, you gotta get paid. But by the way, she loves to go to the post office now because she gets paid. Even when I don't have to mail a package, she goes to their front door, like she leads me there on the leash, and she's like, I'm ready to stand here and get beef jerky because I want to get paid. So that's the motivation. We become domesticated animals who will do things that are boring to us because you get the reward, you get the pat on the head, you get your 401k.
It's like the mice and their little shot of cocaine with that little
completely Pavlovian, completely stimulus and reward. And there are other things that are about that too, like certain ways of posting on social media that give you that momentary dopamine fix, and then you're like, oh, I feel temporarily better. I think that's what also a lot of fighting online is about.
I got 15 likes. I feel amazing.
Totally. If you attack someone else, or if you say I'm a social justice warrior, I'm going to call you a racist and Islamophobic, then you're like, oh, I feel temporarily better because I, yelled at someone else online. I don't know what a nap, NAP is. Someone is saying you need a nap. Here.
You don't know what that is?
No. The comment says, authority is handed, yet going back continually, eventually someone had to claim themselves as more qualified, yet all you need is a nap. Yeah. Well, there's the human hierarchy where some people elevate themselves. The Animal Farm. All of us are equal.
Non-aggression principle.
Oh, got it. Interesting. Yes, I like that. some people are more equal than others, right? Like politicians don't want you to fly in a plane, but they get to fly in a plane because they are worthy of emitting all of that pollution.
Right. But it's still flipped. Like it could be a hierarchy where like yes, if you work really hard and you're very genuine and you're helping people, then you get paid a lot.
That
but
is what
still,
it should
it's
be.
still even flipped over. So like
Right.
the people doing the most worthless shit
Completely.
and actually evil things and whatnot are
Completely.
the highest paid.
You got it. Like my former housemate is a lovely person, and he works as a social worker, and he actually had to have like side gigs because his main salary as being a social worker was not enough to be able to, you know, responsibly handle and pay for all of his bills and everything. So that's really huge. He's a very good person. He's doing all sorts of stuff to help people, mostly who are developmentally disabled, and he's being devalued in our society so much that his basic salary structure is not enough for him to support his life and pay basic rent and bills and have a car and drive around. So that's really out of balance because then we have really people that are doing work that is very worthless and they're being rewarded for this. And I'm talking now about like Instagram models. You know, someone who might pose in a picture on a computer site and get many hits and get advertising revenue from that. And there are kids that get this, and it's like a lot of money from doing this. And I also think it's kind of whatever. They're in the Luciferian. They're sucking the system's ding dong. They're part of that. But the point is that in our inverted society, that is what some people get paid a lot of money to do, to pose on Instagram and, you know, whatever, advertise things and market things. And that's not necessarily a worthy endeavor. That's helping people. He's not like helping, you know, retarded people to make their breakfast in the morning. That's a really worthy thing to do. So
That's socially incorrect thing to say.
Oh, pardon me. Okay.
I think the correct word is differently abled.
There you go. Whatever. People who are not able to take care of themselves, my friend's work is to help to take care of them.
Ease up with the microaggressions, please.
Okay. Sorry.
But yeah. Basically, the realm is upside down, and if you're awake, you have to actually do something yourself. Like, you gotta do something yourself. You can't just sit around and mope around and wait around. Like, you gotta go talk with people, say like, hey, let's go do something, let's make something, let's create something, let's anything.
Yes.
You gotta do that. If you don't do that, then the system will continue down the same path, and it will blow everything up, or it will put everyone in cages, or whatever. It will do that.
Many people are only interested in their own survival. So they will say, what do I need to do in order to just get my rent and my bills and everything that I need to be paid? And that in itself, that level of acquiescence supports the status quo, and it's exactly what they want. So the worst thing that you can do for the system is to be a troublemaker, where you're like, oh, I want to have a comfortable existence, I want to express myself, I want to live in freedom, and I don't want to follow the prescribed rules that society wants you to do. Like working in a cubicle and the various things like that.
They try to keep most below the amount needed to survive. Then you have to commit crimes on the side. Yeah, it's like the musical chairs thing we were talking about.
Yes.
Everyone's fighting over an ever diminishing supply, and then criminals are literally created by the system.
Yes. Kind of like if you think about Soviet Russia, that there were, so in that way of sharing resources there, they had government control over all the resources, and sometimes stores would have vital things that you needed, and sometimes they wouldn't have it. So if the government stores didn't have what you needed, you had to go to the black market in order to get something. That might be like, whatever, nylon pantyhose or something that seems like a luxury, or it might be something very necessary like a medicine or a nutrient. And the scarcity that you're talking about turns people into criminals necessarily, that they have to find some illegal supplemental source of income. I used to live in Humboldt County. I know all about the people that are doing illegal or semi-legal supplemental sources of income in order to try to stay afloat.
Yeah, but just like saying, even the idea that like you cannot pick that orange because some man owns that orange tree, like that's a violation of just like natural anything. Like, of course the tree made a thing, then of course it's for some creature that's on the surface of the planet. Like, it makes no sense if you actually think about it, but that's literally how criminals are created.
Yes, so it's considered stealing because the farmer had to pay for the water to grow the orange. If you didn't have to pay for the water and it was all just done through rain, then that would be different. It's just like, oh, these things just are available to us. So if you had to pay for fertilizer or pay for water or pay for whatever, then I can understand why the farmer would feel sad if someone stole his crop.
The pay gate itself degrades everything underneath.
Yes.
And I mean any pay gate. I'm not saying like any humanity is ready for outside of the monetary system, but
Unfortunately,
all pay
not.
gates are just middlemen, and then
Yes.
they're usually all fucked with and hands
Yes.
plucking off of each and every piece of it, right? Like, so
Yes, like 2 years ago, I thought like, oh, we're ready for this massive social renovation because people are now talking about profound sexual abuse, but it wasn't time yet. I also recognize that humanity is not yet ready for a time without any monetary system. That there's this sense of like you have to have a reward, you have to have a thing. Because where I come from, my collective, my cosmic world.
welcome, Fabian. Fabian's our wood-dwelling Canadian
Oh,
friend.
nice, very nice. So Fabian's already like living outside of
Yeah,
the grid.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
already doing it. I totally forgot what I was saying.
I did too.
That's okay. Moving on.
Do you guys
Feels
have
like
any?
background.
Do you guys have any questions or topics you want us to cover? I think I want to wrap up there.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to keep going, you can go as long as you
that's
want.
totally fine. And actually, we should probably get nourishment for our physical bodies.
Yeah,
too.
we're gonna go eat.
Yes.
What should we eat? Sushi.
There is a very nice sushi place that's in our neighborhood.
Cashless society. And where you.
Oh, thank you so much for the reminder. Where I come from. Yeah, so I come from a cosmic collective. I'm usually a not embodied person. And the way that things work and that level of mentality, if you have a good idea, you get the resources that you need to be able to work on the project. There's none of this kind of like, oh, I have a great idea that's going to help all humanity, but we just don't have the money to be able to build that thing. So, thank you for appreciating our live chat. Thank you very much. I know we were relatively informal in our
We do
zoning
these.
all
Yeah,
over.
we do these often. This is like a rare time you'll see us like physically together.
Exactly, we're actually in the same time zone, in the
Yeah.
same county here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're happy to do it.
But we do them like once a month or something at least, right?
Yeah, Snail show together.
Yeah.
So what is very alien to me, the experience of having to come here and having to do all the ego self-promotion, where you're like, I'm so great, look at my stuff, listen to my stuff, listen to me, like to the way that I'm used to things. Like you just do your stuff and you just display your excellence, and then people reward your excellence. But if you do that around here, like you will totally be homeless. You cannot just be like, I display my excellence, everyone. Like I'm waiting for the money to roll in. So you have to play the game a little bit of telling everyone, I'm so great, and you really need to buy my stuff and pay me.
Yeah.
I had to learn
You
that.
have to sell yourself a tiny bit at
You
least.
have
Otherwise,
to.
you're gonna be doing a super shitty job anyway, and you're gonna be hating yourself anyway.
You
so.
have to sell stuff. If you want, in this American capitalist society, if you want to sell a thing, you have to put a price tag on it. That was one of the first lessons that I learned. Like, if you just put something on a shelf, no one's going to say, hey, how much is this? Can I buy this thing? You have to be like, here's the lasagna, it's $10.
We're all pretty much slaves to the system and imprisoned, and we can't leave the matrix until we get to that level of physical and spiritual freedom.
I think we can leave the matrix, but in order to eat pure sunlight or be a pure breatharian, we have to stop selling our time for money. So that means you can't be like, okay, I'm going to just eat nothing but pure sunlight while I work at my cubicle job. That's not going to work. It means a total revolution of our entire way that we structure our time throughout the day. Because you have to be like, hey, it's time for me to go sun gaze now. I can't work on your stupid job. I can't go dig a ditch for you.
Yeah.
And then I have to now sit in meditation, and now I have to do this, and now I have to do this. It's pretty much like saying screw you to any accommodations of society and being totally, it's like living like a Sasquatch. Yes.
I think a lot of people probably have lost a bit of faith in the universe itself, its ability to simply provide. If you say like, hey, this job sucks, my body is screaming at me every day, I hate it, and so on and so forth, so will you catch me if I jump out of the job or not? I think a lot of people are like, they've lost that trust. Is necessary.
I think that's fair, because if you're an abused animal and you've had horrible experiences in the past, that is what you project into the future. So yeah, there's some necessary like assuaging or hand-holding that needs to happen, where you can say, hey, you don't have to work at something that feels like slavery or feels very unfulfilling or uncomfortable. You can work, and you can work in a way that is comfortable. And that's my approach. So yes, I'm here and I participate in the socioeconomic matrix, and I do it by doing things that are really joyful to me. Like I love painting my paintings. I find it very joyful. I love turning it into clothing and homewares and stuff like that. I'm not that much of a fan of having to fill out the spreadsheets that I have to do in order to like do the actual wholesale orders. That part feels like work, but the other, like designing dresses is fun. Sharing them with customers is fun. Painting earrings is fun, even though it can be repetitive and stuff. But I try to do things that are the most fun and fulfilling ways of earning money, and I say this in order to encourage everyone, like, it is possible. You do not simply have to be like, I work 12 hours a day.
This is all you do, right? Like,
exactly.
You don't have anything else.
Oh yeah, I don't have side gigs.
And she's paying rent, she's paying electricity, she's buying food and whatnot. So it's possible.
Yes.
But you have to actually you have to be brave as well.
That's right. And it's also taken me many years to establish this. I would say probably about 10 years of, consistent effort to do it. And I also, like, if I'm talking to any other artists and musicians out there, I would encourage you to use all the things that are free or, non-payment type of platforms. So on my clothing design company, I don't have to invest hundreds of dollars to get small, medium, and large. Like, the customer pays me, and then I buy one version of whatever they need.
We have some latecomers, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So I found a way to be able, like, you can use, like, Teachable is a very good platform that I use in order to be able to share my lessons. I don't have to pay them hundreds of dollars. Like, I only pay them a percentage of my sales. So to artists and musicians, like, there's all sorts of different ways that you can be independent and motivated in sharing your work with the world, that you can, not like you have to invest thousands of dollars to even start your business. You can start it small and then be able to, keep it going with good momentum. And
but you have to start, like,
yes.
You have to actually start doing something.
Right.
Try to drop the expectations.
Yes.
Just get in there and go do something.
Definitely, and I didn't. The first couple of designs that I made were not very good. Like, I had to kind of learn through trial and error. But like, the idea is, I didn't have to start this business by first getting $5,000 investment and then getting every dress printed in small, medium, and large, and then sending it out through the mail. Like, it doesn't work that way. So technology has made it more possible for me to do some of these things. So that's why I encourage everyone to do their thing and to do things like, you can create videos and then charge a fee for people to access them, or whatever. It's like, it's no longer just this sense of people getting their inspiration and entertainment only from Hollywood or only on the TV. Like, there's a lot of independent stuff that is going on now, so we need to support one another. So I will send profound appreciation to all the people that support me for doing my classes and buying my clothing and other things like that, because I joke, it helps keep the lasagna flying. It helps make it possible for me to keep on doing this, so that I don't have to crumble down and dig a ditch for $10 an hour, which is not a good, and I don't think that most of these ditches even really need to be dug. I think it's just like busy work. Like, go move that pile of dirt to over there, and then I will give you $10. And I don't think it really even needs to happen.
But that's an automatic thing that comes from mechanization, right? Is the idea that some work is being accomplished starts becoming less and less because machines are doing most everything.
That's another.
They're like, here, human, go, like, shuffle that ball back and forth, and I'll give you money for
totally.
it.
We're gonna wrap this up, but that's like on the same level of the idea of universal basic income. Like, if machines and AI are performing all of the menial tasks that humans used to get paid to do, then the government will be like, oh, I'll pay you whatever, $1,000 a month just to be in existence and go places and do, buy things with it. It's like you just become a consumer. You are no longer a producer, and how disempowering that is. And there was something else when we were talking about when we were on our walk. I'm sorry. My brain is definitely getting tired.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for understanding.
Well, we talked a little bit about Sasquatches, right?
Oh, I was joking. I'm part Sasquatch. I have very large feet. And also, I would like to just be able to live in this Sasquatch is interdimensional. They don't eat physical food. Like, they don't live in a physical house. They are hopping in and out of reality. So basically, in order for us to, hi, thank you for tuning in. We're almost at the end.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
You caught the tail end.
Yeah, in order to be like, give the finger to society and not knuckle under and work for money and become just sun gazers and breatharians, it's kind of like becoming a Sasquatch. We become interdimensional people. There you go. You might be part Sasquatch.
He's a tennis player.
There you go.
Does large feet help with tennis or no? Or you trip over them? Hobbit feet.
Someone else has hobbit feet. Some of my friends in Woodstock have hobbit feet.
I have like exactly normal size feet. 10. Are your feet bigger than mine? Are you bigger than size 10 in men?
Yes, slightly bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're like the same height as me, though.
Yes.
Right? Are you 5'10"? Somewhere in there?
Exactly.
Yeah. Same size.
Yeah.
Oh, he said something. Jasquatch.
That would be your Sasquatch name.
Yeah.
Yes. We were joking. Gary is part Sasquatch too because of his facial hair.
Low power.
And my phone is even saying that we're almost out of battery.
Fabian's a baby Sasquatch.
That's good. Baby Sasquatch is very lovable. And I think Sasquatch is very peaceful in their telepathy, but they can be also very badass. Like, they are not doormats is what I'm trying to say. So I think that they would love to connect with all of the humans that are, you know, like have potential and are loving inside, but that they are just completely like, oh, like completely revulsed by the feeling of our cities.
How cute.
Oh my goodness, that makes sense, of course. So
so if we sit down and meditate and be like calling all Sasquatches, right? Is somebody just gonna come talk to us?
Absolutely. It might not be a physical presence of a Sasquatch. You might get telepathy on a bridge of love with Sasquatch.
I'll have to try it.
Yes, I encourage everyone to do it. I have found them to be very lovely, loving, wonderful creatures.
My beard's legendary, apparently.
There you go. They will recognize you and they will say, "We know that you are part Sasquatch."
I don't know who Brian Mullen is. I think we're wrapping up. Sorry, you guys. So, guys and gals.
Thank you so much to everyone.
Thanks for joining us for this once in a year.
Yes.
I'll visit you again.
Yeah, of course you will. Good.
Thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a pretty big turnout. I think 40 concurrent.
Very good. And I know it was a very wide-ranging topic, and I apologize if I couldn't squint and read all of the questions and comments that were coming in. I know that I missed a lot of people, but thank you for your comments.
And you can re-watch and you can see the comments again. I know on YouTube you can. I'm not 100% sure on Facebook. I think you probably should be able to.
Yes, you can re-watch, and I'll respond to your comments if there are things that squashed on by that were too fast.
Thanks for stopping by, Jazz, and thank you to everybody who stayed with us for almost 2 hours. It's been quite fun.
Marathon.
Informative.
Yeah.
Everybody go meditate on a Sasquatch.
That's right.
You're welcome. Good night, Trixie. Yeah, if Joey watches this, he'll be happy because he's all about the Sasquatch.
Nice, awesome.
All right, you want to shut her down?
Yeah, so we have to press finish on here. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, people. How do we do it? Maybe here? Nope. Where's the button?
Is it the X?
Ah.